Hello and welcome to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. I'm Swebb.
And I'm Dad.
And we are the dad and daughter duo talking about all of our favorite sports moments from the week. Dad, how's it going?
It's going okay, Swebb. Can't complain. Can't complain one bit.
You can't complain? Have you been tuning into the Knicks?
Yeah, I'm not a complainer, though, so I can't complain.
Okay, well, let's talk about what you've been up to for the past week before we dive into the Knicks. Let's start off with a positive.
Well, I entertained you down here for a few days.
You're lucky. Those were some of the best days of your year.
You and all your demands.
I cooked dinner for us. And you didn't really talk while the dinner was on the table, meaning you were chowing down so much
I never
that
talk.
you didn't even have time to talk.
And
you talk a lot.
Not when I'm eating, though, Swebb.
Unfortunately, I didn't take a picture of it, but I made chicken and steak skewers, and I made a panzanella salad that you couldn't even stop eating before I was even done with the skewers. You were dipping your fingers into the panzanella salad. But I thought it went pretty successful for someone who was a little skeptical about what mom had brought back from the grocery store.
Yeah, I wasn't going through all the groceries to see what she brought back. I saw she brought back a lot of stuff.
The tides
when
turn.
when I cook something, I don't have to come back with a whole grill. You just throw a few burgers on the grill, you throw a steak on the grill, and you're in good shape. You gotta come back with a whole barrel full of stuff.
Yeah, that's how people cook. You know, it's after a while the hot dogs and hamburgers get old. You like to have a side salad or something other than a bagged salad with the burger or hot dog. So that's what I decided to do last week during Memorial Day weekend, just so that you guys know that we can change it up a little bit. I also took you out to dinner.
Yes, you did. I forgot about that. Yes, you did.
So what was that about all my demands? My only demand was that you turn down the volume of the TV.
Well, that's tough, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. I forgot. Thank you very much, Swebb.
So it turned out to be a pretty good weekend for you, huh?
Yeah, when are you coming down again?
I got to work, make some money over the next 2 months. I'll come down in August.
Okay.
But we did go to the gym, so you kept that up.
Yes, we did. See?
Have you been back since?
Huh?
Have you been back to the gym since we went for that 10 minutes a few days ago?
No hablo inglés.
All of a sudden you're taking Duolingo.
Right.
We did go to the gym for about 10 minutes. How many calories was it that the bicycle machine said that you had burned?
It's like such a good job, right?
You hardly did anything,
What are
Dad.
you talking about?
Eight calories.
8.
See
You know,
that?
I can walk to the bathroom and back and burn 8 calories.
Come on, Swebb. Give me a break.
You can walk to the kitchen, open the fridge, grab something to eat, and burn 8 calories.
Hey, I'll be right back.
So we'll work on that. So you haven't been back since.
Not yet. It's been less than a week.
You're supposed to go a few times a week, Dad. Especially when it's right around the corner from the house.
I wasn't down in that gym. It was maybe about 2 years ago I went down there.
I know. Every morning I went for a run, and you didn't do anything. And finally, you got inspired on my second to last day in town. But you might be onto something, because I went for a run in Central Park the other day, and I saw a girl running towards me at very fast pace. I was towards the end of my run. I was a little tired. She was running towards me. But as I looked at her, she had a bit of an accident on herself and had some brown liquid running down her legs.
See,
everywhere.
Now, is that worth? She's probably running for hours out there. That's crazy.
So you might be onto something.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't tell. I don't think you exerted enough energy to even get that far.
No.
And I certainly don't when I'm running.
Oh,
So,
boy.
speaking of crapping on themselves, shall we talk about the Knicks?
Yes. Let's talk about the Knicks.
Because the Knicks are down in the Eastern Conference Finals, 3-1 to Indiana after losing on Tuesday night, 130 to 121. And Houston, we have a problem.
It's called lack of defense. They've played they've played, 5 games now? They've played a good defensive game once, the only game they won. And let me tell you something. They were in kind of dogfights with Detroit. That wasn't like an easy series. And then they were in dogfights with Boston. Outside of that last game, they were in dogfights the whole time. And then you come into Indiana. They're up by 20. They're up by 14 with 2 minutes and something to go. And they lose that game. You know, and then game 4, what was that? Game 4 they won?
Game 3.
Game 3 they won. They were down by 20, had to come all the way back, and they win it. There's only so many times you can go to the well like that. And then
They've
depending
certainly
on 30-foot shots by Towns, and depending on Brunson scoring 30-something points, you can't win that way.
They've been playing with fire the whole entire postseason.
Right.
And really during the regular season.
Right.
There's only so many magical shots that Jalen Brunson can put up to get lead the team to victory. But there have been a lot of issues that I have with this team. And you were talking about it. We were together. We were out to breakfast while I was down there. And you were talking about what should the Knicks do this offseason. And I was like, we're in the Eastern Conference Finals. You need to relax. We need to focus on this season. The season's not over. And now after watching Game 4, I'm not ready to completely give up on the season, but they've got a lot of issues, and I'm finding it really hard to envision them beating the Indiana Pacers. Here's why. You talk about defense. They haven't played a lick of it, except for in Game 3 that they ended up winning 106 to 101, or to 100. So as we start to just talk about the different ins and outs of the play, I'm so frustrated watching this team because they make a lot of bonehead mistakes, both in Game 3 and Game 4. Just too many fouls from your 2 stars on the team that end up getting into foul trouble early in the game. Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, not playing defense and just like dumb fouls. It's one thing to foul a guy hard to make sure that he doesn't score. It's another thing to grab a guy's wrist, to grab Miles Turner's wrist like your mother grabbed you back in the day when you weren't listening and she told you to get over here. You know? It's just one of those things. And then, like, this is the thing that's so frustrating about watching this team, because it's like, this is an unhealthy relationship that the fans have with the team, because they can make you feel so good after being down 20 in game 3. I'm on a plane watching the game, squirming, and they start to come back. And now all of a sudden it's like, yes, they won. Okay, go into Game 4. They can win this game if they continue to play the way that they did in the second half of Game 3. And they just crap on themselves throughout the game. A number of different players just not executing the way that you would want to. So let's break it down a little bit more. Because after Game 2, Coach Tom Thibodeau decided to make a lineup switch. He decided to insert Mitch Robinson into the starting lineup and move Josh Hart to the bench and have him come off the bench. Game 3, he also used more of his bench. He used Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright off the bench, and obviously Deuce McBride and now Josh Hart. So now he's using 9 guys in that rotation. And quite frankly, Landry Shamet, DeLon Wright, Deuce McBride, Mitch Robinson, those are the only guys that play defense on this team and were able to keep them in it. Now, they weren't always the most confident on offense in terms of the offense was a little bit stagnant, but the offense is stagnant with the starting five on the court. The only difference is that you have Jalen Brunson who can create his shot. So you've got, that was a great decision by Coach Tom Thibodeau in Game 3. Game 4, he goes with the same lineup, but for some reason goes away from playing Mitch Robinson, Landry Shamet, and DeLon Wright. He hardly plays them or doesn't play them for as many minutes as he did in Game 3. And the Knicks had trouble, obviously, by giving up 130 points. They had trouble stopping the Indiana Pacers. I have seen better defense from my niece and nephew when they're trying to guard their toys from each other. To watch Tyrese Halliburton just go off like he did in Game 4 with Mikal Bridges guarding him, I don't even know what he's doing out there. He's so soft that I don't even know what he's doing. The way that this team does not fight over screens, they do not communicate with each other, and I've never seen more wide open threes in a game that actually matters. The only time I see threes this wide open is when I'm watching the NBA All-Star game. And the Knicks seem to give up, just let the Indiana Pacers shoot at will. So I feel a little bit conned because you got excited thinking we got past Boston, defending champs, great team, tons of stars. You get to Indiana, you think you have a chance. Indiana's a great team. They're obviously showing that. They have a great coach. And the Knicks are going to peter out, it looks like, again, to the Indiana Pacers.
Well, okay. Last year, they lost to Indiana in the 7th game, but their whole team was hurt.
They showed more fight with having 4 guys not able to play than they're showing in 3 of these games, 3.5 of these games.
They had a different type of team last year. They had Hartenstein. They had the big Ragu. They had a better team last year, even after some of those guys got hurt. This team has been a flawed team from the beginning. They don't have enough shooters. They don't have enough defensive. They don't have enough guys that can play defense. They don't have enough ball handlers.
It's not just the thing about the defense is they were able to turn it on in the 4th quarter of Game 3. That's what also makes it frustrating is they're able to turn it on and turn it off. Mikal Bridges can sometimes look like, an all NBA defender. And then other times he's just floating around the court, letting his guys, run circles around him.
They gave up 5 first-round draft picks for him.
So for all
when you give up 5 first-round draft picks, you're supposed to get a superstar, an all-star.
I'm just feeling really conned by the PR campaign that is the Villanova basketball team. I'm feeling conned by the campaign that is the Roommate Show, the podcast, because these guys are likable guys. They're good guys, but man, are they frustrating to watch. And I'm thinking these are players, we've talked about the Villanova connection ad nauseum.
In that second championship game at Villanova, do you remember who the MVP was? The big Ragu.
Well, here's the thing. Regardless.
He was the MVP of the Final Four.
These are players that we talk about nonstop. Played for a legendary coach in Jay Wright. Played 3-4 years in college. Stayed for their whole entire eligibility. Won national championships. You would think that they would know the fundamentals. And the fact that they can't play defense, turning the ball over, also not really understanding who's on the court at what times.
Yeah, but it's not just the Villanova guys.
Well, it's not just the Villanova guys. I'm just saying this is something that I'm seeing because the Villanova, the Pope's from Villanova, he's on our side. And listen, the 3 biggest problems on the court are the Villanova guys for me. Jalen Brunson, he gets a pass because he can, as much as he can't play defense, he can also take you out of a lot of tough situations by scoring. And he has distributed the ball. I didn't like what I saw in Game 4. At the end of the game, why is Mikal Bridges the one taking all the shots? Your superstar isn't taking any of the shots. All these players are drawn up for Mikal Bridges, who is fading away, hardly goes,
He only took 3 shots in the fourth quarter. But just remember, they're double teaming him. You have to have more shooters. So you can't double team
more shooters. But here's my thing. The season isn't over. As much as it feels like it's over, Knicks fans are down in the dumps. This is a good enough team to win 3 straight games against the Indiana Pacers. It's about execution, and it's about keeping your head in the game. Enough with the ticky-tack fouls. The refs aren't on our side. That is fine. But you put them in the situation to where when you have 3 fouls each and you start with the nonsense fouls, who cares if they don't call a foul on you? There were 3 or 4 bad fouls that you had that you gave up early in the game.
In Game 3, Brunson had 4 fouls in the second quarter. That's one of the reasons why the bench had to play so much. Okay?
Josh Hart looked awful in Game 4. And I think Tom Thibodeau got excited. He saw him grab some hard rebounds at the end of Game 3, some of those rebounds that he's known for, being an undersized guard going up against the big guys on Indiana. And that gave Tom Thibodeau the opportunity to say, you know what, we're going to play Josh Hart more. But then when he gets into the game and he starts throwing the ball into the first row of the fans, it's time to take him out. I mean, how long of a leash does one guy get? You also have to understand who you have on the court when, right? So if you drive to the hoop, if you have that shot, don't kick it out to the corner to have Josh Hart take the shot. He's not a good shooter. Go up with the ball. What are you doing passing? OG Anunoby, he looks tentative, although he had a pretty good game on Tuesday night. He looked tentative every single time he went up. He's like hitching, like he has like a Charles Barkley taking his golf swing. He's like hitching every single time.
He needs to get wide open shots. When he has to, he's not a real offensive player. He's a real good player, but he needs to be set up with wide open jump shots. That's when he's at his best.
So here's the challenge now. I've never been a fan of saying we've got to fire the head coach, because I don't think that there are that many great head coaches out there that are available. The challenge with Tom Thibodeau is that he does not like to deviate from the plan. Now, we saw this with Boston last round. They didn't deviate from taking 43s a game, whether they were hot or cold. And that ultimately resulted in them going out last round. It almost feels like he got bullied into putting Mitchell Robinson into the starting lineup, and not that he actually wanted to use him. Because in Game 4, Mitch Robinson only played about 19 minutes. He played less minutes as a starter than he did as a reserve in Games 1 and 2. So, have you ever seen the movie Remember the Titans, Dad?
Yes, that's a movie that I did see.
It's one of my top 3 favorite movies. And you've got Coach Boone, played by Denzel, and you've got Coach Yost, played by Will Patton or Bill Patton. And in the state championship, one coach is responsible for the offense, one coach is responsible for the defense. And in the state championship, the team's down, and Coach Yost and Hayden Panettiere, she was like 9 at the time. She's now in her 40s or late 30s. She comes down to her dad and she says, now's not the time to be proud. They're kicking your butt on defense. And then all of a sudden they have this breakthrough moment. The music comes on and picks up, and the coaches unite and they say, let's help each other. I need your help on defense. And the team goes on to win the state championship.
You remind me of her.
Well, it's one of my favorite movies. But what I'd like to...
And I haven't seen many movies, but that is a movie that I've seen.
Right. And did you stay awake the whole time?
Yes.
I know that, and The Blind Side, that's also another one of your favorites that we saw in the movie theater.
Hoosiers.
Any sports related movie.
Pride of the Yankees.
Sandlot. Yeah. Field of Dreams.
What's the other movie with Notre Dame?
Rudy.
Rudy, yeah.
So, there's this moment of, as a coach, now's not the time to be proud. Now's the time to say, who do we have? And how do we just put everyone's egos aside? Me as the coach, put my ego aside, but also put the players' egos aside and put the best players out on the court to win the game. Because it's not a guarantee that you're going to get to the conference finals every year. And the season is still going on. So how do you change the trajectory that it seems like the team is going in? And it's about changing up your schemes and deciding to put pride aside and put the best players on the court, regardless of who they are, what their name is, and how much they make.
Yeah. And the way my mind works, when I see a problem, I try to fix it. And I'm not happy with this roster, and I'm already thinking about things we can do to fix it for next year.
I'm not completely focused on next year. We might be talking about that on Friday.
I'm always looking ahead, Swebb.
But here's just a few things to call out. Landry Shamet, +9, leads the team. +9, meaning that the Knicks are scoring 9 more points than the Indiana Pacers when he is on the court. Delon Wright, 3.7, +3.7. And then Deuce McBride, +2.8. Those are the only 3 guys in the positive, all bench players, all that have been used sparingly, that are making the biggest impact in terms of the Knicks' effectiveness, both defensively and offensively. Mikal Bridges, -8.3. So when he's on the court, the Knicks give up or 8.3 points more than they score. Brunson, -6.5. So those are the 2 lowest on the team. So these are the issues that we're seeing with the lineup of OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Mitch Robinson, and Deuce McBride. The team is +5.5. With the lineup of OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Mitchell Robinson, Landry Shamet, the team is +5. So there are some lineups in here that when they change up who's on the court and bring in some of the bench players, the team collectively plays better defense.
Oh, it was kind of obvious. Those other guys, and if you notice, they had. This is a bad mix of plays. Okay.
Indiana's averaging 21.5 points off turnovers. The Knicks are averaging 8.3 points off turnovers. And they're also 16.3 points. Indiana's averaging 16.3 fast break points. The Knicks are at 5.8. So
Knicks had 17 turnovers last night. Okay, and part of it is these guys are exhausted. Okay, because they have to work so hard to win a game.
Do you ever watch hockey during the playoffs?
Yeah.
These guys, black eyes, swollen ankles, the puck's hitting them left, right, and center. They're skating on one leg, but guess what? They're in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they come to work every day.
Yeah, hockey guys, hockey players are a totally different breed of person than basketball, baseball, than any of these other.
Listen, when you get to this point, you got to find that dog in you. I can tell you one person who doesn't have a dog in them, and that's Mikal Bridges, because the way that he fades away on every shot, the guy is like immune to contact. He is avoiding contact at all costs. And it's not like the Pacers guards are like big physical guards. Tyrese Halliburton could blow over with a large gust of wind, and you're avoiding contact. Go up strong to the basket, and if you get fouled, guess what? You go to the free throw line. I mean, the way that he's fading on every shot, and then you expect it to go in. He looks like someone, like, this is the type of, remember back in the day watching Roland play basketball? You remember how quick the leash was for both his high school coach and his college coach? The minute you made a mistake, it was like clockwork. Tom Thibodeau has one of those leashes that I see of people in the city where you have the button and it goes all the way out. And for some reason, people in the city, when they're walking in Central Park, they love just letting the dog roam. And then you're like trying to limbo or not trip on someone else's leash. That's how long his leash is. Instead of having one that's right here where the dog's right at your side, right at your pocket.
I felt bad for some of those kids that got yanked out of the game the minute because you can't let the game get away. And you're in these close games. You can't be playing around with guys' turnovers and stuff like that.
These guys make enough money that you can be tough on them, and the best players play.
Yeah. Yeah. The more money these guys make, the more privileged they feel. That
so
they
all of this,
don't talk to me.
Wing stop conversation in terms of OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges being excellent defenders, that has disappeared for Mikal Bridges. And it's like, we know that Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns don't play great defense. We know that. But there have been some guys that have been absent from this conversation of also not playing great defense, and that's Bridges and Hart.
I know. And Hart with a lot of dopey passes.
2 turnovers and you're out. Come sit down next to me. Thank you, Josh. You're a nice guy. Great personality, but sit down.
See, the difference between the Knicks team and the Indiana team, and you'll see down the road the Oklahoma City team, they go with 10 guys. The 5 guys that come off the bench, they're not as good as the starters, but some of them are, and they're all capable of scoring and playing defense. That's the difference. So the Knicks let DeLon Wright play. Okay.
And he played great defense, but at least he comes out with some intensity. If
Yes.
he misses a shot, I'm not as bothered because he's not always out there.
He played great defense. Do you know how old he is?
How old?
33. You know how many teams he's been on? About 10.
And he's thinking, I don't get to the conference finals that often, so when I'm given my opportunity,
I'm not knocking the guy.
play.
They're not paying him much, and they picked him up, and he sat on the bench all year. They gave him a chance to play, and he played pretty good. But he's not capable of scoring for you, okay? And some of these other guys they bring in outside of McBride, he's the only guy that's capable of scoring for you that they bring off the bench.
Shamet can hit some shots.
Yes, he can, but he missed a lot of the season early with a dislocated shoulder. And he never had the surgery, so I don't know what kind of real condition he's in.
The only glimmers of an actual offensive set that I saw were a few times where they moved without the ball. I mean, you spread out the court. Jalen Brunson, if he comes down the court and his back is to the basket, we've got problems. But when he comes down looking at the basket, deciding to drive and dish, or a guy cuts without the ball, now you're open. That's when OG Anunoby had a few easy baskets that way. Mikal Bridges had a few easy baskets that way. We cannot rely on chucking up 3-pointers from the logo and then hoping that Mitch Robinson, although he's averaging 4 offensive rebounds a game, mops up everything. It goes back to, you can't be too proud. You gotta just go with the best players at the right time, and that's that. And we've all watched, at this point, we've watched 90-something games. Everyone, like, Tom Thibodeau got bullied into playing Mitch Robinson in the starting lineup in games 3 and 4 because everyone was screaming, dude, come on. And he was like, fine, I'll play the guy. He's been one of the best players for the Knicks all postseason.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, like, what are we doing?
He's even hitting some of his free throws now.
That was the concern. Now he's hitting free throws.
And that tells me he stayed in the gym and worked on it. That's what that tells me. And I got a lot of respect for people to do that.
The Knicks don't seem to have an answer for Pascal Siakam. That's the one guy that is really, given his height, his skill set, and then the way that he's able to move, they don't have an answer for him defensively. But these other guards, like Tyrese Haliburton is a great player, but anyone can put up a triple-double when you're not being guarded by anyone. Like, I'd like to see OG Anunoby maybe guard him. Switch it up. Like, why is Bridges, after getting burned, and some of these picks...
Well, then who's gonna guard Siakam?
Well, OG's not always on Siakam. Freaking Karl Anthony Towns has been on Siakam, which has been part of the problem.
He's not quick enough to guard Siakam.
But what I'm saying is there is no answer for Siakam. But you can stop some of these other guys. I mean, and the way that these all NBA players on both sides of the ball set picks, they don't actually set picks. They kind of just stand there, you know? So, like, the fact that you can't fight through it is inexcusable. So, Thursday night, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I've got a bit of a problem because I have tickets to the ballet.
Well, why? How many ballets are you going to?
This is the last one of the year, of the season, and Mom is flying into town to go to the ballet with me. So, and the ushers at the ballet, they go crazy the minute someone takes out their phone. Like, they're borderline insane with the way that they'll, like, rush down the aisle in the middle of the show to tell someone to put their phone away. So it's not like I can really track the game on my phone.
What can I? Why? How many ballets? And she's flying into town to go to a ballet with you.
We're
to go to a ballet.
We're going to go to an afternoon tea on Friday. We're going to do some activities, but yeah, this is...
A tea?
This is not going to... You know she loves tea.
Yeah, but...
So...
She's flying to New York.
She's flying to New York to spend time with me.
You were just here last week.
She loves me more than you.
And 2 weeks prior to that, you guys were in Spain.
She misses me dearly. So what I need to have happen, listen, the game usually starts at 8:15. The ballet starts at 7:30. It'll be done by 9:30. So maybe 10 p.m. at the latest. So I will be able to catch the second half, but it's going to be stressful. And guess what? The way that the Knicks have played in the first half, this might actually be a saving grace for me.
You know what you should do? If they win, take it down to 7th Avenue and stand out in the street and climb up the telephone poles and stuff.
Yeah, right.
She would love that.
I think Knicks fans we're just going to think if we win on Thursday.
Oh, she would love that excitement. Take it down there.
We should win at home, but thank you very much. On to the next, and we'll see what happens on Saturday night, and then hopefully on Monday night.
I got an idea for you. Why don't you put those tickets on StubHub, sell them, and use the money and go to the Knicks game?
You know what? The prices of the Knicks game probably have gone down a bit.
They have.
We're going to the ballet, so we'll see what happens. It might be baseball season sooner than I would like it to be. But luckily, the Yankees have been playing well. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They're on the West Coast playing the Angels on Wednesday night and tomorrow night. Tomorrow night. And then they head to the Dodgers and play Friday through Sunday. So 4-game winning streak. They're 7 games up in the AL East. This is the first time that they've been 7 games up in May since 1998.
Right. Part of the reason.
That was a good season.
Yeah. Part of the reason is that division that they're in, for the first time in I don't know how long, absolutely stinks.
It does, but the Yankees have been playing non-division opponents.
Yes,
like
they're
on the West Coast right now playing the Dodgers.
For the second time
Angels.
this month, they're on the West Coast.
They played Colorado earlier in the week, or last week. And we got 7 strong innings from Carlos Rodon on Tuesday night, 7 scoreless innings. Max Fried has been the best pitcher in the AL all season. So right now, the starters are really, they're hitting their stride. And then the Yankees look like a complete team. They've got some gaps in their lineup. Obviously at third base, second base has been a challenge due to some injuries. But
those guys are playing defense at those positions. You don't have to have 9 Babe Ruths in your lineup.
You don't. But they're finding a way, and I think it starts with the starting pitchers pitching as well as they have been. And then the bullpen, with the exception of Devin Williams, has been solid.
Yeah, it has.
So it might be baseball season. That's why I'm wearing my Yankees shirt, because, it might be time to turn the page by the end of this week.
Last week you had a Knicks shirt on.
Yeah. And I wore it on the airplane. I even ordered a second shirt. I wore my Knicks jacket yesterday to work. I had construction workers saying "Go Knicks" to me as I was walking down the street to work. It might be time to whip out my Yankee jacket.
Do you have a Jets jacket?
No. I have one sweatshirt, and I wear that inside my home, and that's it.
Oh, the NFL schedule came out. There's 3 games in Florida. So I'll talk to you about that.
Yes, we've talked about this briefly, and the answer is no. I am not going to those. So, Dad, before we, obviously we're looking forward to the end of this series that the Knicks are playing against Indiana. But before we close things out, is there a dad tip of the week that you'd like to leave people with?
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to your niece's big lacrosse tournament this weekend.
I cannot wait to hear about the highlights.
I've been studying up, learning, so I know what I'm talking about, Swebb.
Well, good. It's
the
about
women's
time
game is totally different than the men's game.
It only took you almost 70 years to finally start
easy
studying.
with that, Swebb.
So what is your tip of the week?
The tip of the week is, this is for New York fans, because it doesn't seem like people do it in other cities. Don't bash your players. Over the last week and a half, Met fans and the media in New York are just totally destroying Juan Soto. And you know something? When you do that, this is the reason why a lot of these top-notch players don't want to come to New York. You cannot bash your players. This man is one of the best players in the game for the last 7 years. Sooner or later, he will hit. Why is he not hitting? I don't know. But Met fans bashing him, and the media, WFAN, is destroying this man. You can't, and then the fans take up on that, and then they go to the ballpark. It's not going to happen if you keep doing that. And
right.
Good players, and it's not just for Met fans or Yankee fans. It's good players aren't going to want to come to the Knicks. They're not going to want to come to the Jets, the Giants.
Okay, let me stop you right there. Thank you for the advice, but if Mikal Bridges doesn't show up on Thursday night, he's getting bashed. If Josh Hart doesn't show up on Thursday night, he's getting bashed. Yeah, Juan Soto, it's May, and the MLB season, there are 162 games. Give it some time. But if these guys don't show up at the Garden for Game 5 of the conference finals down 3-1, they're getting bashed. Along with Coach Tom Thibodeau. Okay?
Okay. You want to get rid of Thibodeau and get some of those other students? Do you remember the last 5 coaches we had before Thibodeau?
I didn't say get rid of him, but we can't be too proud. Tom, you got to draw up some new plays. You got to change up the lineups, Tom. All right. Well, that concludes this week's episode of Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. Be sure to follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X, and subscribe on YouTube and Rumble. We will see you next week.
So long.
Go Knicks. Show up, boys. Find that dog, boys. Thank you for tuning in to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports, the show where we cover all of our favorite sports moments from the past week. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X. See you next week.